Howdy doody. Welcome back to the ranch. I got spider webs on my camera. My name is Mick. This behind me is my 2019
Ram 3500 dually.
We've been starting up a series on this thing, doing some mechanical updating on it, but today we start the fun part. We're gonna be getting into the looks. The most important part about a truck. We're gonna dig into a little bit of a lift kit, leveling kit. We're gonna give it a new set of shoes. We'll get into that later, as well as a little help from some friends. One I have worked with before, Novsite, and the other one that I have not worked with before, but I am just delighted to be working with, Hook Road. We're gonna be putting some off-road bumpers front and rear and decking it out with the works from Novsite with some off-road lights. Boy howdy am I excited. So, without further ado, let's get started. Man, I really do have some spider web. All right, obviously we are up in the air already. That's because I was checking out brakes and such in the mechanical video. We pulled the old wheels off. Now some were okay. This is just the stock set here. But this one, for instance, these were on the inside rear. Two of them were in this kind of condition. I was wondering why I wasn't holding air. I got a pretty good sized gash in this tire. Yeah, that thing ain't gonna hold no air. So we're gonna get rid of these. Now, I'm not gonna show you guys the new setup yet, but I sure am excited about them. I got them all prepped and ready to be put on. But before we do that, I wanna get this thing sitting level. I don't wanna lift this thing up and have a jacked up truck with big old offset wheels and all that. If that's what you're here for, you're in the wrong place. Brother. I am using this truck for work purposes, for hauling, and I don't want my MPGs to go way down. I just want something that's gonna give it a little bit of a beefier stance. The first step to doing that, by my expertly stored box here, as you can see, I've really been taking care of this thing while it was in storage. Okay, this is just your regular old poverty lift kit, as they call them. It's just a 2.5 inch leveling kit made out of steel, and all you do is just put this little puck underneath your spring and it lifts up the front by 2.5 inches. We're gonna need an alignment after we do that, but that's all you do. You throw this thing in, you got a little 2.5 inch spacer to lift your shock up, and that's all we're doing. I'm hoping to have this portion done before sundown. I'm starting late in the day here. I don't have a lot of daylight left, but I'd like to get this out of the way so we can move on to the fun part, ripping these bumpers off and putting something snazzy on the front and rear ends and mounting them up with lights. Let's get to work on this. I'm gonna jack up the front of the truck a little bit more than it already is, and then we can start taking off the shock so we can lower the axle down. All right, so I gotta reposition my jack stands and get them up a little bit higher. Not a great place to grab this thing, so you kind of have to lift it off center, which is fine. So I ended up grabbing it right there on the axle. Not exactly happy about it, but it was as close to the center as I could get it, so that's what we did. Regardless, now we are supported on the frame itself, so I can start to drop this thing down and relieve some of the pressure. I'm not going to drop it all the way yet. I want to start getting the shock and everything loosened up before I drop the axle all the way. So in order to do this, we need to get down to our shock here and take this bolt out. This is where that 2.5 inch spacer is going to sit here. And then we got our sway bar link here. Loosen this bolt up here and pop that out. That'll get this side free for us to drop the axle and pop the spring out. And we obviously got to do the whole thing on the other side too. So not much to it. So I'm just going to get working here and let you know what I find. I am gonna throw a little schmutz on everything. Although I gotta be honest, I'm pretty excited that I don't typically get to work on stuff this new. Very little corrosion to deal with, which is not something I'm used to.
I'll never fall again. Said adieu to love. Don't ever call again. I'm through with love. I'll never fall again. Said adieu to love. Don't ever call again. For I must have you or no one. And so I'm through.
You know what they say? Boom bop bam. The type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand. Hey, bing bop boom. Bing bop boom. Bing bop boom boom bop bam. Alright, I'm getting bit, and I knew I was going to. I bought the cheapest kit on Amazon because gotta save money somehow, you know. But it's biting me. Essentially, these are not labeled in any form, driver's side, passenger side. I would assume that these have to be directional in some way. The other thing is they definitely got these instructions off of another kit because they reference using the supplied metric 10 by 1.5 inch bolts. That's these. There's 4 of them. So you'd use them for your outside holes. One is the stock hole, and then you drill a hole for the other. But they also reference using the backing plate supplied, which is this, that I would assume is supposed to drop in the center here somehow. But there's nothing for that to grab onto up there. I mean, I can't get that up there. There's nowhere for it to grab onto. And then I would assume that you're supposed to run this bolt, obviously up from this side, but run it into this backing plate to cinch this into, you know, the top of your coil spring up there, you know. But it doesn't reference that at all, and there's no way for me to get this little backing plate in there anyway. Even if I did, there's nothing for it to grab onto to suck it together, you know. I knew this was gonna happen. And then these, I'm assuming, are supposed to be, why are these open like U-shaped? What? That makes no sense. These should be closed holes like these. But this is upside down, you know, it's supposed to go this way. These bolts are supposed to go down through here. I don't know. I'm just gonna I'm gonna put it together as best as I think it's supposed to, drivers versus passenger side. Worst comes to worst, this is just botchery, and I'll buy a new set, eat the cost on these. I think they were 60 bucks or something, I don't know. Now I'm actually running out of daylight. I was scooting around pretty good, and then I ran into this, and I'm sitting here scratching my head for a half an hour because I don't know how this is supposed to go. I would love to say lesson learned, but I'm going to do this again where I buy the cheapest part available just to try and make it work. But 0 out of 10 stars. That's how it works. And I would love to tell you what it is, but I don't even remember. I bought this months ago. Back to work, I'll figure this out. I don't like it. Change of plan. I don't like it. This is a downright piece of shit. I'm gonna do it the way that I want to do it. All right, well, I wanted to keep working that other night, but it just got really dark really quick, and I was doing the passenger side. I couldn't see a darned old thing, but at the end there I was saying that I'm gonna do this the way that I want to do it. The reason being is when I drop this bolt in, obviously this is notched out. There's no way of really making sure my bolts are secure, and that is super frustrating. I don't think it's supposed to be that way. I think it's supposed to be, you know, a closed bolt end like this, where you could snug this up real tight, it'll probably be fine, but this is your front suspension component here, so better safe than sorry. My plan is I ended up drilling out the back bolts on both sides, so I'll be able to get this clocked in the right way. I'm going to have 2 bolts holding it, but I also have 2 paint marks sitting here, one here and one here. Clean up the paint here, same on the frame over there where this sits, and I'm just going to do a bead of weld on either side of this here puck. That way I know for sure that this ain't going nowhere, and that is the plan. So unfortunately for me, my welding setup here at the shop is mobile, and it's not great because I just got this welder and I haven't set it up yet. I got plans for that, I just haven't done it yet, but this is what we're working with right now. You know, that's not all that bad, but this extension cord isn't long enough, so it gets a little squirrely over there, but we're not going to talk about that. You know, it's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, make sure I'm good to weld, and like I said, I'm just going to do 2 small beads, so it's secure, but easy enough if you want to take these off in the future for whatever reason. Easy to get to with a grinder where you could just grind the beads of weld off and remove it. So yeah, let's get to work here. Oh boy. I love it when you just start to drop something and then everything else drops behind it. It's my favorite thing in the world. Man, another set of hands would be great for this. I can't reach this bolt. So where they have this positioned, in videos that I've seen, it's about like right here. So you could still kind of get to it and finagle it. But front one's here. The rear is on the complete opposite end, and I don't have a way of getting my wrench in there to even get to it. Because the bolt is so tight up against the puck here that you have to be on the outside of it. Or the nut rather. You have to be on the outside of it in order to turn it. So I can't even get to it from this way and get a wrench on it. There's no way for me to do it. And on the rear, it's, you know, just as bad. I could probably come up from here, but I'm never going to be able to get it tight enough. You know, I'd just be able to get it finger tight. I drilled that rear one for nothing, because that's not going to work. I'll probably hold it there as a placeholder. Maybe tighten this one up so it's snug, and then weld it. Am I missing something, or is this really this dumb? That is not welding well at all. Yep, you know, user error, that's how it goes. My gas was not working. Now that the gas is on. Okay, structurally I saved this side. Looks-wise, that's probably the worst welding I've done since I started welding. By golly, she's gonna hold. That's all that matters. I'd love to cut that out, but I'll leave it in. I'll leave my mistakes in. I roll with the punches. We're gonna jump to the other side like this didn't happen and weld it up nice and pretty and move on with our lives. Alright, listen. If this is your first time watching, I'm sorry. This is me at my worst. as far as welding goes. Through and through, this is the worst possible example of my welding abilities. I'm not a good welder, don't get me wrong. But this is so bad. How am I gonna look myself in the mirror tonight when I go to bed and say, you did good? When the nicest truck I've ever owned, this is the type of welding I'm doing. Just awful. Not to mention this side where I had to stop and go backwards. And we're not even gonna look at the other side because I fully welded it without any sort of shielding gas going on, and then welded over that above and below it to make it structurally sound. But now I got 3 beads. Sorry. Let's get these springs back up and button this up so I can move on and tuck my tail in between my legs and do something else. At least the paint will cover up the welds a little bit. Boy, I hope no one ever has to see that. Put our puck up in here. Other one in there. That's in. Okay, both of those are sitting where they should be. Now I need to get these little shackles in for the shocks. Like I said, it's like a shackle. So stock bolt will go through the bottom. Gonna rotate the shock 90 degrees. New bolt through here. Cinch her down. Should be as simple as that. Sides together. Just got to jump over, line up the other side, do the same thing, and then as we bring it back up, get our sway bar reattached, and we'll be done. All right, we're buttoned back together. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend. Don't do what I did. I got the cheapest Amazon kit. What I should have done was gone to a reputable brand, reputable brand like Rough Country or something. Get their kit. It's an extra like $50 or something, which when you're online, you know, it's double, but it's worth it. Just get a good reputable, that's the word, brand. Everything's together. I'm not quite done with this yet because I'm gonna take it in for an alignment. You know, right now the spring is kind of cockeyed, so I got to make sure everything's good now after we lifted it.
Lifted truck here. Brother. Got my lifted Dodge Ram.
I'm obviously not going to drop this down yet because we got more to do, and I am so excited about what we're about to put on this thing. So I'm glad that's over. That was a train wreck, but moving on. The seller was so proud of this thing. 14 inches of concrete. You'll never have any issues with that, Jack. 14 inches high. I was there when we poured it when I was a child. 14 inches of concrete. It's got potholes all over it. This driveway needs to be ripped out. Proud of it for no reason. Today, we've got some help from some sponsors, and I am so excited about this. They're not paying me for this, but they did provide me with some help. They also didn't give it to me for free. They just gave me a heavy discount. That is Hook Road. They are giving me some help on the front and rear bumpers on this truck. Very fortunate for that. I mean, these things are expensive, so any help with discounts helps. So Hook Road is giving us bumpers. And the other one that I'm super excited to be working with for a second time, because their products are great and I like the company, is Novsight. They're going to be providing the off-road lights on this one. I had a little bit of an unorthodox plan, but they were game to let me do my thing, so I'm gonna do my thing. I had a vision, and I'm gonna see it through. So Novesight is giving us off-road lights for this. I've worked with them in the past, actually on my 3rd gen Ram. Love their lights. I mean, they're sturdy, they're cool looking, and they work well. So I'm going round 2 with them. Can't say enough good things about the company. Just a good, solid product. So we've got lights and bumpers. I'll go more into the plan of what we're doing with both of them. But for starters, we're gonna get to work on the rear bumper because that's the worst of the worst. This thing is in poor condition. So I'm gonna rip this thing off of here and get the new rear bumper on. The thing about these 5th gens that I'm not used to, because I don't typically have a truck this new, is I got all sorts of things going on within the bumper. I've got backup sensors down there that don't work because of the damage previously done. I've got these license plate lights that are actually built into the bumper themselves. And then I've got my trailer pin connector here. All of those will need to somehow be worked into the new bumper. This is just a standard off-road bumper, so it doesn't have provisions for those things. So I'm gonna have to make that work somehow. I don't know how yet, but we're gonna figure it out when we get there. For now, I just wanna get that bumper off, get the new one up there, start dry fitting where the lights and stuff are gonna go. So let's get started. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure how this comes off, but just from poking around down here, I've got some damage, which I'm not really worried about. But it looks like I got 2 bolts holding this half of the bumper on. And then the same thing over here, 2 bolts here. So I'm gonna pop those 4 out, see if this thing drops. But before I do that, I gotta disconnect all of my wires back here. This is for the trailer. And then I've got all these little sensors. Just start tearing it open, see what happens. This is going to be a whole lot of fooling around with all these wiring harnesses, so I'm not going to waste the footage. If you're doing this and you want to know how, go to every single plug and unplug them, and then it's 4 bolts. That's it. 4 bolts and about 20 wiring harnesses, all for a rear bumper. Can't wait to get to the front and see how that one is. I think I'm gonna have to drop this, maybe support it so it doesn't break the loom out, and then, because it's really, I'll show you before I get it out, it's really folded over and pinched in there. Alright, this is the loom that I'm talking about, and it's just really pinched in here, so pry this up somehow and get this thing out of here. Got it. Finally got it. Anybody need a Ram bumper? 5th gen, lightly dented and scratched, perfectly usable. Scratched. Lightly dented and scratched. Alright. Now, I've got 3 boxes here. They obviously come in multiple pieces. Not sure which one is which, so we're just gonna have to open them up, see what we got. These are my lights, so I'm gonna set them aside. One of my neighbors across the road they're working on something, and not to judge them, but I've seen them before. They don't look like the most handy people. I shouldn't say this is mean, but they're over there like tapping on something. I don't know if you can hear it, but it sounds like they're using like a Little Tikes hammer set. I don't know what they're doing over there, but it doesn't sound like they're making much impact on whatever it is. But like I said, who am I to judge? They can do their thing as long as they don't bother me. Right now, the noise kind of is, so I'd rather they just went inside and hired somebody to do it. I better stop talking. I'm just irritable today. This looks like my front bumper, so we'll save that one for now, put it aside. That also looks like it'd be to a front bumper. This is definitely a front bumper. There's a light bar here. That's nifty. Okay, this whole thing is the front bumper. Those two pieces that I had over there are the wings. This is the center section. These other two pieces are the top and bottom of the front. Give you a little idea what we're looking at here. It sounds like a child is over there with a hammer just tapping. Honest to goodness, couldn't even guess what that man is trying to accomplish. He's got a hammer and a chisel. He's up on a ladder by his gutters. No idea. Oh, this has a license plate light on it and a cutout for my trailer lights. I thought it didn't. I don't think I can use my stock license plate light, but that's all right. And then two wings, one for the left, one for the right. Whoa, baby. Oh, there's lights back here. Didn't even know that. Sort of defeats the purpose of the lights that I was planning on putting in here. Thank you, Hook Road. But I'm going to one-up you and make it a little better, I think. It looks like the light that's in there would be perfectly sufficient for what I was trying to do, though. I will say that just to keep it real. Alright, so you could start to get an idea of what we're going to be looking like here. Now, these are the lights in here that I was talking about, and we'll go through in a little bit, but I'm planning on putting lights right here as well. So I'll just wire it in all to the same switch, and that'll just be that much better for what I'm doing. The center section up here, I didn't think that it had a license plate light, but it does. That's a nice little surprise to me. Here's my provision for my trailer plug, and then I've got 4 little rubber plugs, and when I pop them out, sacrifice I make for trying to record something, you know. Whatever. So when I pop out these little plugs, this looks awfully like the right size for my little sensors here. There's not a good way of attaching them. I don't really know what I'm gonna do there. I think for now I'm just gonna leave them out because, like I said, they're not functional as it is. I don't know if that's a wiring problem from how damaged the bumper was and maybe a wire got pinched or something. But as of right now, the backup sensors do not function. So for the sake of time and focus, I'm just gonna zip tie them up and abandon them in place for now. For y'all at home that are looking at this, it's definitely possible to make your backup sensors work with this bumper. So time to break out the hardware. Let's get this thing mounted up. Would it be easier upside down? Sure would be. Pro tip. Nice. That is gonna look really good. I like that a lot. I'm also noticing a issue. Fairly large one, I must say. So I have this pretty centered where it's at, and I noticed down here. So the bumper obviously still has to go up to match these holes here. This is the little nipple I'm talking about. I can just cut that off. But my tow package here bumps out, and even with me lifting the bumper straight up, this is going to be hitting right here. So I think I'm gonna mark 2 spots, cut up and notch this out. It's gonna take away some structural integrity, sure. Looking at that, there's really no other way around it. And I don't think it's gonna really mess with it that much. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. Grab a little paint marker, just mark where it's at right now. I'll just eyeball it, put it back up there, dry fit it again, see if it works, go from there. Yeah, total bummer. So this is where it falls. So I gotta cut this out and cut this out. It's literally right where the support is. That's kind of bogus, but. Also, I forgot to mention that Hook Road actually warned me about this. They only list this bumper to fit a 2500 truck, and they asked me when they sent it out to me, they said, hey, let us know how it fits up because we don't know if this fits a 3500. So I would say my only notes on it are it fits fine, and it may not be every truck that it fits this way. The only part that kind of messes with it is the tow package itself, and I don't know if the tow package that I have on my truck is stock or aftermarket, or if they come in different shapes and sizes, because that's the only thing that impedes with the bumper itself is the actual tow bar. So food for thought. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could cut these ears off, but I really don't want to do that. I'd rather take the structural integrity out of the bumper than, you know, my tow bar here. Yeah, that would just be a stupid idea. It would be easier to do that, but I think it's better in the grand scheme to do it here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm doing. Unfortunately, I ran out of battery. I'm embarrassed to say that the power to my garage is off at the moment. Not because I meant to not pay the bill, but I didn't pay the bill. So they shut my power off. Once I realized that the power was off, I paid it. Hopefully they're gonna come out tomorrow, Monday, to turn it back on. But until then, I don't have power, and I just killed my last battery. Just gonna have to throw in the towel for now. All right, I've been fiddle farting around here. I got this bumper ready to put on, cut my little slots in it. I just doused her in paint, you know, it doesn't have to be pretty, I just want to keep it from rusting. So we're gonna dry fit it up. If it's all set to go, I got jacks ready to go, kind of hold her up in place. I did read the instructions, just because I wanted to see if it said anything about the sensors, the backup sensors. And it does. It tells you to epoxy the stock ones, the bracket that holds them in on the inside of the bumper. Again, I will look at doing that at some point. Right now, they don't even function anyway, and that's a project for another day. So I'm just going to zip tie them up. The only thing that I am going to make functional in that wiring harness is we'll splice in the wires so I have my reverse light and my trailer connector. We'll make sure this fits in there. We'll get to that once we have the bumper in. So let's fit this thing up, see what happens. This thing is stout, I will say that. Okay, all right, that's pretty well centered. Let's see if this thing's gonna fit. Yeah, I'd say that's good. Looks great. I'm gonna tighten it up, then we'll focus on our wiring. Okay, back on this thing another day. I am fitting my trailer connector here into this hole. I'm struggling with length. I think I'm a little bit long, so I'm gonna shave along this side here to lift it up. And I'm just gonna take off little by little because I don't want to take off too much and then be screwed in the end and have a loose fit. So the plan is just to take a little die grinder here. I got a little reference mark with my marker. Just take it off little by little until it fits. Perfect. Surprised myself. All right, moving on to the front here. I already took my front bumper off because someone was coming to buy it, so I, in the rain, ripped the thing off as fast as I could. He showed up and didn't buy it, so that's how it goes there. But you didn't miss much. It's just basically 4 of these bolts and then 4 other ones, and unplugged 1 harness, and that was it. Now, as far as prep goes, before I put this new one on, I went ahead and painted this black just to get a coat on it. It was a little bit chipped up, so that's nice and clean looking now. Same thing with these brackets here. One thing I noticed with this bracket over here, man, there's some quality welds from the factory. It's still got the wire in there and everything. Must have been the kid's first day on the job. But that's all right. I'm sure it'll hold just fine. It's made it this far. This is the base for the new bumper that's gonna sit up here with these 2 brackets. And then it looks like it has a little plate if you want to add a winch, which is pretty cool. I'm not going to, but maybe one day. And then here is our bumper. Comes with 3 lights, which is pretty cool. I can wire that into my light plans that I have with this truck. Slick bumper. I'm excited for this thing. And it looks like some shackles come with it too, so I'll throw those on in lieu of the stock ones that mount up right there. Those stock ones are beefy and nice, but unfortunately there aren't any provisions to mount those stock ones back up, so I'll save them, probably use them for something in the future, but I'm fine with these little shackles. Nice part about these is I can take them off and use them if I need them. Okay, so I got a whole slew of bolts here. Instructions are pretty self-explanatory. You got 3 main pieces over there, and then this. You just bolt everything together and set it up into place. I think I'm gonna bolt this ahead of time, get that mounted, and then mount the other bumper on top of that. I'm not sure if that's what you're supposed to do, but doing it as one person and not having another hand, probably a lot easier that way. All right, let's get mounting this thing up. Boy, am I glad that I didn't sell that bumper. Blessing in disguise, because I was staring at it for a second and realized that the brackets weren't lining up. And well, I came over here and I need these brackets. I didn't realize it, because you take the bumper off by taking these 4 bolts off and then the whole thing slides out. But that mounting surface is flat, so it mounts to this surface. I need to take these off. This attaches back to my frame, and then the new bumper attaches flat here. Blessing in disguise. Oh man, this is gonna be really tough. Question is, can I do it by myself? I'm already seeing that I'm gonna have to do some adjusting to my mud flaps, or my wheel wells, if you will. That's not a big deal, I've got a grinder. But how am I going to do this by myself? Oh wait, will this sit up here if I just... I'm sorry, I'm overthinking this. There's a lip here. I should very well be able to just lift this up and set it on the lip, and it'll be stable enough to get the bolts in. I'm an idiot. It's okay. It's amazing what happens when you use half of your brain. Oh, this is gonna look sweet. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about the wheel wells. I'm definitely gonna have to cut these, which is fine. I burnt my finger. This finger is really going through the ringer. See the little white dot? Piece of burning plastic flew back and hit my finger. Owie. One more thing that I'm gonna do before I get this on the truck. I was looking at my wiring situation, and I am going to wire all these together towards the driver's side and fish it up to the relay that I already previously installed. Hook Road, if you are listening, one little piece of critiquery if that's a word. I get that some people may be wiring these 3 lights separately and they could go out and into the truck that way. However, I would imagine that most people are going to wire these all in series together, daisy chain them together. So give us a little hole to throw wires through. Otherwise, you got to go under the bracket. You could do that, but I'd rather have it more hidden and more secure than that. So I'm gonna throw a couple holes in here, feed all my wires, get them soldered up ahead of time. That way I just have one pigtail at the end that I need to deal with once it's on the truck. This is gonna be a little bit squirrely, but it should be fine. All right, now that we are officially prepped, finally get this thing up here, see if we can fit it into place. Ow. There we go. Put a bolt in this side. Not too bad. Let's get the other 2 in. Looks like I'm gonna be stuck tightening these up with ratchets, but that's all right. From where I'm sitting right now, both need to go up, but that needs to go up a little bit more than the other. I think I need to come out a little bit just so I'm not risking pinching my wires, and we should be good. So I'm gonna fiddle around with this, make sure we're all square, show you how it turns out. She looks good. So I spent the rest of the day and into the dusk hours just fiddling around with this thing. I got this bumper set to my own mistake. The frame underneath this bumper cover here, I had cocked a little bit. I mean, it was like 1/8 of an inch, but that was just enough to not be able to get this thing to set right. So it took some time, but I took the bumper cover back off, and once I did that, I evened up the bumper frame nice and square, and then it was a breeze. I set this thing up here and I got it exactly where I want it, and it looks good. The other thing that I ended up doing last night, I finished my wiring into the relays. If you haven't seen that install, it's in a separate video, so I'm not going to go too much into wiring on this video because I already kind of went through the plan previously. But the other thing that I got to do is finish out the rear bumper. You kind of see this light right here. The plan back here is to have these 2 lights, one right here and one right here. I just have one setting up as a dry fitment just to see what it would look like. There's going to be another one on the other side. These are actually from Novsite, which if you haven't heard of them before, I worked with them previously on the 3rd gen Ram. They were nice enough to provide me with the lights for this project. I can't say enough good things about them. I think I already said that earlier in this video at this point, but really rugged off-road lights, top-notch quality parts at a decent price too. They were a little skeptical, but they were willing to work with me on this one. I told them I wanted to use these lights on the rear bumper of my truck. These are actually meant for like a Jeep Wrangler above the tire or below the tire, to have like a spotlight and an extra brake light on a Jeep Wrangler as like an off-road light. My idea was I wanted 2 of them so I could put them on either side of this bumper and have them light up as an extra brake light, and then with a flip of a switch have them all light up in a series of floodlights in the rear. So the plan is to wire this so my reverse light on the truck, the bumper, and these new lights are all going to light up in the back along with my lights in the front, so this thing just goes full bright and I can work in the dark, which I did something similar to the 3rd gen where I just had spotlights in the back. I ended up using that more than I thought I was going to, but it was a little frustrating because the lights were all the way at the front of the bed. It's gonna be nice having all this right at the rear so there's nothing impeding the light. I'm just gonna have a big spotlight in the back. I'm really excited about this. With these lights, they are kind of silver in color, and if you know me, my main accent color that I always like using is like a deep bronze. So I'm actually gonna peel those covers off and get started on paint so I can get those drying. I'm gonna paint the silver edge here. I'm gonna paint this my bronze color just to make it personalized. Nothing wrong with the silver, it's what I prefer. And then we can wire all that in as series. I will show you when I wired in my auxiliary fuel tank. I kind of just threw the wire in there against the existing loom and said I'm gonna wire this better in the future. And I did do that. So you can see this loom right here runs all the way back to about the leaf spring right there. And I got my auxiliary fuel tank wire and my floodlight wire ran in that loom, and then it's all re-zip tied up and zip tied up better, because before it was kind of dangling and looked ugly. So I'm gonna quit yapping. I'm gonna get painting on these spotlights in the back. I already got one popped off and taped up so I can spray this bronze. Get the other one over here, do the same. While that's drying, we can focus on the ditch lights, I think they're called, with another product from Novsite, their new X series, which I'm super excited about these two. Those come with their own switch and relays, so I can do that while the paint's drying on the rear here. Let's get back to work. You have it, ready for paint. Ever find yourself in a situation where you need to shake up a paint can, but you don't want to sit here and do this for an hour? Boy, do I have the solution for you. What you're gonna need: Sawzall, a long Sawzall blade, preferably 2 worm clamps, a grinder, a welder, and a can of paint. If you don't have all that and you just want something quick and dirty, a Sawzall, a long blade, and 1 worm clamp will do you. You don't need to weld it. Step 1, take your grinder, give you 2 spots to weld to, and preferably grind off all the teeth so you don't hurt yourself. Step 2, weld your worm clamps to your Sawzall blade. Step 3, attach the new blade and insert the paint can. Step 4, shake it. Now I'll tell you, you'll never get a better coat out of a can that's been shaken by a Sawzall. Okay, while those are drying, I'm gonna turn my attention to the front here. I'm pretty sure these are called ditch lights, I think. And the last time I did these, I had to make my own bracket. Thankfully, with this truck, brackets are available. I'm assuming how these work is you throw this underneath your hood. Yeah, it goes right in there to your hood hinges. And of course, my hood is lined up pretty well, so I'm gonna try and finagle these in one side at a time so I don't mess up my hood alignment. All we're doing is just loosening these 2 bolts and throwing this new bracket in there. And then we can mount our new lights on top of this bracket. It's as easy as that. So see if I can't get this thing in there without screwing up my hood alignment. Man, if only it were that simple last time I did this. And with how easy these lights are going to be to install, since they're all pre-wired and they come with their own, I guess you would call this a relay, I don't know, it's like a control box and a fuse. It's really plug and play with these X series lights. I am getting spoiled. So all I'm gonna do here before we wire these things up is it comes with a sticky mount switch, so I'm gonna mount it right here. I'm just gonna drill myself a little hole for the wire to go through. Nothing crazy, Okay, and I think just for aesthetic purposes, I'm gonna mount this right in the center here. And then I like labeling things, so I'll label it after I have it mounted. Get this labeled here. Ditch light. Nice. All right, so we got our ditch lights up front. Floodlights is gonna turn on everything around the truck, front and rear. My auxiliary fuel tank and my winch in the back. My switches are finally done. Now I can run this wiring up front. And like I said, it should be plug and play. I'll mount the actual ditch lights and just plug them in. They should be good to go. All right, so these are the X Series off-road lights by Novesight. These things are so cool. So these are the lights, and they have this orange cover with them, which my preference is to keep the orange cover on. I did the same with the other truck. Basically, these are the updated series from the last time I did this video. It's super cool. It's got this like LED X through it. It's tough, you know. Again, like I said, plug and play. So I'm gonna mount this up to the brackets that I put in. I already popped up my little trim underneath the windshield wipers so I can run the wires through there. I already got my wires all set up, so all I need to do is just plug these 4 little wires into the harness itself, and we should be good to go. So I'll get up there and show you what's going on. Okay, so the light itself, I can just feed the wires behind there. Then all we do is fish this bolt through here, fish it through the other hole. Ooh, big spider. Go away. Don't go by my fingers. I don't want you here. I don't know where you are. Please don't bite me. Why did he decide to hide right where I was working? It's literally like right where my fingers are, right where he went in. There's this little piece of trim here that you can unclip. Come on, there we go. Okay. I'm just feeding these under here. Clip that back into place. Okay, then my wiring here, I've got the wire to my switch going through the firewall, and then it all comes behind here. I know this is kind of hard to keep straight, but here's my extra wire. I'm going to zip tie this up and away. And I have my little relay controller tucked down here. Going to mount that there, again, just with zip ties. Then I run under here with my other wires. I got my fuse to positive running to... My preference whenever I'm doing stuff like this is to find a positive and a ground somewhere off the battery. The least amount of wires that I can have running to the battery itself, the better to me. It just looks less cluttered and it's easier to deal with when you're replacing the battery or taking off the terminals or what have you. So I got my positive going to this solenoid here. My negative here sharing the same ground as my front lights. My 2 pigtails then that run to each wire, I have this unhooked so I can tuck them under there and run them to their respective lights, and we'll be done. She bad. That looks so good. All right, before I get too carried away, too excited, let's jump back to the rear. Got to get these last lights mounted up and wired in, and then we'll be throwing some wheels and tires on this thing and calling it a close for this one. All right, so you can do this however you want to. You can drill a hole and throw a bolt in like we did up front. For these rear ones, just for simplicity of lining things up and simplicity of attaching, I'm just gonna weld it. Just throw 2 pretty good sized tacks in the front and that'll be plenty for what this is. Didn't turn out exactly how I planned it to, but she worked. Just one of these days I'll set myself up for like a decent weld where I actually have a clear path and just welding 2 simple plates together and I can make something pretty. Until then, I'll just keep doing stuff like this. Hot. Burnt my foot. Nice, right? Yeah. Talking about the Hemingway bike. Hashtag sponsored. It's a nice bike. All right, it's not the best, but it does the job. So I'm gonna throw a coat of paint on this. Okay, so with the lights mounted now, for wiring, I was kind of explaining this a little bit before, but I have to tap into this light here. I'm daisy chaining these into these, so I really only need to pull power from one light. In order to do that, I gotta pop my tailgate off again. Oh, what a bummer. Oh, what a bummer. Did not see that coming at all. So this bumper has a lip on it. See that lip down there? And when I open the tailgate, it's just the center catches on the lip. It's worth noting, I think my bumper is actually bowed out from damage, but I'm not exactly sure. So over here I'm okay, but down here I am not. I could lower the whole bumper, but I would have to lower it quite a ways. You know, in order to get this to clear, I would have to lower this at least an inch, because that hits right at the base of it. And I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to see that bumper any lower than it already is. I mean, it holds body lines pretty well how it is. I'm gonna stare at this for a second, see what I want to do. I might be taking it off and pulling out a grinder, to be honest. All right, well, I was able to finagle the tailgate off. I was just able to get this side down just enough to pop it out and then yank it out. So I cut this lip off. Like I said, I was looking at it. I could lower this a bit, but I like it where it's at. I understand this lip is probably to keep water from getting on the wires back here, but I might bend this lip just a little bit further back just so it's got some room to clear. But I think I like it where it's at, so let's move on. I went ahead and tied this wiring and this wiring into this wiring. So this is all tied together at this point. It's all daisy chained. All I did was found a good spot to snip and tie them all in together, and then I ran them in a loom together, and we are right here. So I still have to tie my bumper light into my spotlight, but while doing that, I'm going to run it straight up and tie it into the tail light. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I just recorded this whole segment of me figuring out the wiring without my microphone on. Luckily, I caught it. Unluckily, I just recorded this whole thing with no audio. So we'll recap and then I'll time-lapse you through the work. But essentially, what I was explaining after I just got done saying that I was tying in the passenger side spotlight and the passenger side bumper light, I daisy chained those together into these, and I ran the wire up, and now I'm tying them into the tail light. So I took the tail light off. There's a whole bundle of wires here, which I was pretty surprised by. I didn't think there were going to be this many. You could do one of two things. You can go online and try and find a wiring diagram that calls out each wire, but that almost never works. With different models and different years, there's almost always wire color changes, even small ones, that'll screw you over if you wire something into the wrong wire and you can fry something or whatever. Even worse, start a fire. Do the right thing when you're in this situation. Grab your multimeter and just find a black wire, which is probably your ground. Plug in one end of your multimeter to the ground and then just start probing each wire with each function. So for me, I just made a diagram here and drew out my pin connector. You could do this multiple ways, but it's just a puzzle, you know. You flip your lights on, you run through each wire, and find a 12-volt positive. So I know that this pin over here, I turn my lights on and I have a 12-volt positive here. That is my running lights. I also get 12-volt positive at this wire down here with that function on, but as I continued with my functions, I noticed with every positive function that I had, this wire lit up 12 volts, so that's my 12-volt constant. My reverse light, I just threw my truck in reverse, looked for a 12-volt positive on each pin, and I found that this wire up here is a 12 volt positive, so I'm going to wire in my floodlights to that wire there. I found that by pushing the brake pedal, I got a 12 volt constant at this wire up here, so I'm going to wire in my brake light function into that wire, so on and so forth. That's what you do. Unfortunately, like I said, I explained this a little bit further as I was doing the work, but now I'm just going to do the boring part and run this pigtail down, splice into each wire, wire it all up, and we should be wrapped up with the wiring portion of this project. Again, I'm sorry that you missed out on the actual work and explaining, but we'll time lapse it real quick, put in some good tunes, and I'll see you when we're done. Go on, tell me. How good does it look? It looks good. Like really good. I am very excited for this. I kind of wanted to do it at a dusk hour. It's a little bit darker than I wanted it to be out, but I was working on another video and this was the time that I was able to get to it. So, this is the truck. We got our ditch lights up here working. You saw the headlights obviously work. I have the floodlights on right now, so my front bumper lights are on. So here's your lights up front. That bumper looks great. And these lights are super cool. I don't know if you'll be able to see them on like this, but I'll try and turn. Yeah, so you see the X in the middle. Those are so cool. Novsite definitely killed it on those. Hook Road, this bumper is sweet. And then we got the bumper in the back, let's not forget. And my combo worked out pretty good, if I do say so myself. We'll take another look at this in daylight real quick. I'll be able to get a contrast for you, but I have my floodlights from Novsite back here hooked in, as well as the lights in the bumper. This puts out a great amount of light for working in, and that's what I'm after. So that's fantastic, super happy with that. I don't really have a way of showing you guys the brake lights, but I'll turn the floodlights off and get my running lights on, and you'll be able to see my lights in the back. So that's what it's going to look like with the running lights on. License plate light works, so I really like that. I think it's different. Having that kind of like a tiered light setup is pretty cool. I like how it looks. I think it turned out sweet. And then obviously when I step on the brakes, those will shine a brighter red as well. And then obviously the note that you can't really see in this lighting, but I'll take some shots in daylight for you. But the wheels and tires, these are about 33-inch BF Goodrich all-terrains on the stock Midnight Edition wheels. And I obviously painted them my signature bronze color. I think they look really good, especially with that little leveling kit on there. I think it has a great stance to it. Wheels and tires, I can't remember. The tires came with them. They have about 50% tread or a little bit more. I think I spent like $1,100 or something, and then I sold my stock set with the crappy tires for $400. So I think I did all right there. But yeah, I am in love with the way this truck looks. I think it looks fantastic. I'm super grateful to be working with two great companies on this one. Again, Novsite and Hook Road. Novsite was nice enough to reach out to me and provide a discount code for y'all. It's 20% off if you use Nock Ranch 20 in the checkout. And then there's, as far as Hook Road goes, I mean, you're not going to go wrong with their bumpers. I will say they did give me a little disclaimer, and they told me that they weren't sure if the bumpers were going to fit a 3500. They knew they would fit a 2500, but they wanted me to let them know how the install went. And my only notes with my personal truck, I don't know about the 2500, but I obviously had the little bit of issue with my tow package. That could be a multitude of things. It could be because of the 3500 and the tow package is a little bit different. It could be because the tow package is aftermarket. I don't know. And quite frankly, what it took to make it work was literally nothing. So that worked out great. Bumpers fit great. They look great. Again, super happy with how this thing turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys like how the truck turned out as well. If you did, please do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. I really would appreciate that. Like the video, share it, all that fun stuff. You could follow me on Instagram, Facebook, the Tiki-Takis. And with that, I don't have anything left to say, but thank y'all for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one, but always remember, don't be afraid to grab that wrench and get after yourself. We'll see you next time.